Welcome and greetings. Today I'm joined by Sekou, and we're here to talk about all things esports, maybe a little bit of real sports, and no slander on that comment. But Sekou, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, great. Happy to be here today. Happy to be joined by you. For folks who don't know you, what can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so I am actually a traditional sport athlete at Princeton University. I play football there. I actually just graduated about 2 weeks ago. And I created a little company called Eval Gaming, and we help kids go to college just like I did for sports, but for esports players.
No, I love that. And congrats on graduation. I'm sure it's got to be kind of nice to have that part over with as you head into summer and be like, oh my gosh, it's like I have free time again.
I don't think it's sunk in yet, and unfortunately, I'm going directly into grad school, so there's really no break, and I'm
Nice.
going to actually play one more year of football. So we're
Right
boots
on,
on the
man.
ground again.
Boost on, the rhythm is there. Keep it going. No, I
Mhm.
love it. Good stuff. Well, I'm kind of curious, and we'd love to hear a bit about your journey, as a traditional sports athlete, coming up through college, but then also seeing this need and being involved in this esports world, because there are a lot of similarities from a skill development standpoint, but also, as we think about the ways in which many young people grow up, it's you kind of fall in one camp or the other, and usually not both. So I'd love to hear in terms of what took you down this path and what inspired you to create your organization.
Yeah, 100%. So, just like I already said, I came into the world playing football. Like I've been playing since I was 5 years old. Like it was my passion, my reason I woke up every single day. Like I knew for me, once I was ending high school, that I didn't know what I wanted to study. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, but I knew I wanted to play football. So,
Mm-hmm.
in order to do that, I had to go to college. So, that's kind of what I found as my path forward. And then I had a younger brother, and he was a top 400 esports player, and he didn't really know what he wanted to do after high school. And I, as any big brother does, wanted to look into kind of a way that he could use his passion to kind of find a pathway forward. And I looked into if there was any like college scholarships for esports players, and I found out that there was some. It was just kind of starting at that point, but there wasn't really platforms to help him navigate the opportunities that existed. So what we did was kind of put together a better platform for kids to kind of just contact these coaches and find out what opportunities existed. So that's kind of how I was brought into the esports world. That's what I know what recruiting is, and I kind of give all credit to my younger brother as a person who kind of ushered me into this space.
No, nothing wrong with a little bit of inspiration, right? But I love just your ability to think, oh, this is a problem to solve. Like, how can I do this? How can I support my brother? It's many things I can really on the front, right? Like playing basketball in college, which isn't saying very much. I was an incredibly good bench warmer. But I knew how the recruiting process worked from that standpoint, as I'm sure you did as well. What colleges can look like. And everything else is just knowing, like, well, what is my path forward? Where can I play? And one way that I can relate to this when I was coming up in college and then, coaching for a bit is talking to young people like, no, you can play somewhere, but are you calling the schools? Is it Division 1, 2, or 3? Is it going to be NAIA? And just sort of understanding and starting to map out this landscape. And I can imagine as a parent, if I never did that before, or I never played a sport in college, or I don't play esports at all, or maybe I never went to college, right? Like I had that experience as well. Then, how do you go about even beginning to look for what opportunities are out there in this field altogether?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that even as a football player, where there is a kind of defined recruiting pathway forward, like my mom never had a football player in our family before me. Like I was the first one to do that. So it was like, and then also on top of that, it was COVID. It was 2020 when I was graduating from high school. So like there wasn't in-person recruiting events. Like no one could actually see me and see how good I was. But what we did have was online recruiting portals. And that's kind of how I was
Mm-hmm.
able to get all of my college opportunities. And it came to my attention, I'm like, it's gaming and all of this information is digital. You can use kind of APIs to pull data about how good players are at video games. So why isn't there this portal which is more accessible than traditional sports for gamers? So it's kind of came. I was like, it was gonna aha moment, and it was like we can definitely make this easier than what even football players have,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of just took us learning of what has been established and redefined it for gamers going forward.
No, that's a great segue because, obviously you helped your brother. How did
Mm.
you start to grow this into something to help multiple young people at the same time and realizing that, oh, we can make this bigger, we can impact others and make a
Mm.
bigger difference in the space?
Yeah, so we first partnered with Garden State Esports in New Jersey. Shout out to Chris Avalis, he's super awesome. He's really done esports in a way that a lot of people haven't been able to accomplish. Like, he really views it as a traditional sport. The biggest thing that I think that people have done in esports and what's kind of undermined its progress is that they just think about how many gamers there are and how can we connect them, when in reality, it's not the real reason why people play sports. Like, the reason why I like playing for my high school football team is because I knew I was going to play against our high school rival down the street, and I knew the kids I was beating. Like, I wanted that. Like, there's satisfaction in that. And what he's really done for New Jersey is allowed for these schools that have rivalries to continue those, but within the world of esports. And now these kids are way more encouraged to participate and show up for those matches, and like even just like the community itself will help and support that, because it's not them playing against some school across the country that no one knows about. It's really about those regional competitions. It's about building the narrative and helping those kids at the high schools who are playing esports feel just like the football players. And I think that's really what GSE has done. And we started with them. We did their rankings for Valorant one year. That's how we started. And then the following year, I was like, we were doing it for 400 kids at once. And I was like, this is like, I really want to take a step back and see how we can, I want to guide kids through a whole year-long process so we can really see what it takes for kids to point A to point B. So we did the Eval Cohort. We put out applications for kids to apply to who were esports athletes, and we had like 100 kids sign up and go through a review process, and we accepted the top 11 kids. And then through that, we put on workshops with some of the top programs in the country, like Syracuse. And another thing that we would do is we partnered with even companies with just like within the industry. So we had Discord put on a workshop so that they understood what a career in esports could also look like. So kind of helping these kids understand that there really is a path forward within just playing games and going to college, but also after the fact of like developing career skills and within the industry, and knowing that what they're contributing their time to is worthwhile, and that they can still be passionate about video games and also building themselves a future. So that's kind of what we did. We had our 11 kids. That was this year. All of them have college opportunities. So it was super awesome. I also think it was a good break for our team. Instead of like crunching numbers all the time, we really got a chance to get to know these 11 kids. We were meeting with them weekly, helping them talk to coaches. Like one of our guys, shout out Kyrie Upshur. He is awesome. Like he is kind of like our spokesperson for Eval. We call him John Eval. Like he's just like the Eval. Like he's the embodiment of what we want people to do. Is like really takes on, is really proud of the things he's accomplished, and so are we. And I'm super excited for what's next. I think the biggest thing that we want to do is really focus on how we can support individuals and then allow their narratives to inform everybody else that it is possible. So that's kind of the biggest thing that we've taken away from what we did this year. And we're really excited to be starting our summer cohort in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome. You hit on three things that come up a lot, and I've had, among other, like whether it's student leadership clubs, things like that, or even traditional sports, those transferable skills you talk about, right? Like just because you and I played sports in college doesn't mean, oh, we're going to go work in sports now. Like, no, there's tons of sectors around that industry where you can go into, or even not related altogether, but the communication skills, the teamwork, discipline, planning, whatever it could be, there's opportunities to take that experience and transfer into multiple spaces. And I think that gets kind of lost a little bit in the conversation quite a bit. And if you haven't seen it, the competitiveness, that was always my favorite part. I was the youngest child. My brother was 9 years older. I knew I wanted to beat him anytime we played. And so that was a motivator, right? You love that competition, but not to the point where you're like, oh, I must destroy this other person. You're just like, no, I want you to, like, it's fun. Like if you make this hard, if I work out, you work out, and we're giving each other our best, like at the end of the day, that's fun. Right. Yeah. And some of my best teammates were often my hardest workouts and my biggest competition, because it's like, no, like we want to be the best we can be. And there's a camaraderie in that just comes from, training together all the time, being in the same room all the time, working towards a common goal consistently together. There's huge value in that. And I know from what we've learned with esports right now, there's so many young people coming up who have not played organized sports, who have not been in a team environment, who would probably game no matter what. But now they get to play games in a room with other young people like themselves who care about this in the same way. And now they have an opportunity to develop these skills and build up these resources and tools that are going to help them out the rest of their life.
No, 100%. I think one of the biggest things that we've seen is just even within the rooms themselves, is the support from their peers who are interested in the same things, but also just the fact that now the larger community that they're a part of, like the school is supporting them, and now they're being put on a pedestal, and now they're being celebrated because of what they're accomplishing, about what they care about. Because the biggest thing is that a lot of people feel, I guess, the stigma around gaming kind of will keep them from embracing what they love. And I think that when you create spaces that celebrate the things they care about, now they are that much more enthused to show up for class and do well in school and go to a pep rally because they're yelling about esports and they're yelling their names. Like, I think that's one of the coolest things that we've seen, is that the kids really do feel way more at home at their schools when they embrace the things that they care about.
Yeah, I can tell you 100%. I've heard that from so many people, what you just described. One of my favorite stories with the Colorado Esports Championships just a few months ago, and talking to a mom. And I asked the mom, are you about today? Are you excited? And she's like, we didn't even know today was happening. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And it was 2 days before, and she asked her son, she's like, don't you have an esports event this weekend? And he's like, well, yeah, I think so. And she's like, where is it? He's like, I don't know. Like, typical teenage answer, right? And so she looks it up and finds out it's the esports state championship. She's like, you're playing in the state championship? And he's like, I guess so. Like, I just want to play games with my friends. And she starts laughing because just the previous fall, her older son was in the state football championship. And she's talking about how like there is a big deal, and they ended up having a parade. It was the first time the school had been in a championship in like 10 years. And so she's trying to build her son up, and like, this is a big deal. Look at where you're at. Look at what's happening. And there was a disconnect there, right? Because it wasn't put as the same level of priority as in this case football. But to see people get excited, as you think about it, like, how can we get people to start to think of esports in the same manner? How do we advocate for encouraging kids to get involved and to participate and to feel that same sense of pride as you would in any other school, club activity, sport, or endeavor?
Yeah, I think it comes from understanding what opportunities are out there. I think it just comes from the simple fact that colleges are extending scholarships to go to their universities and to be a part of their teams for their skill sets. And I think that when parents and high school institutions are able to acknowledge that colleges have already identified this as something that they want to celebrate, people will be able to pour more into it. They'll be able to invest more into it. So I think that it just comes from people like you and people like us sharing this narrative of what's out there, and people understanding that this isn't something that we're talking about happening in the next couple of years, but that kids are getting scholarships today. Kids are going to schools like Syracuse. Kids are going to schools like West Point Academy, the military academy, for playing like Rocket League. And I think that the biggest thing that's missing is people think that it's something that's coming when in reality it's here.
Now, I know there's a mentorship component to your program as you're starting to build this up. I'd love you to kind of walk through, as players come in to your organization and start to get to support, like, what does that look like, and what type of support do you provide to kind of help them get to the next level?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest. When we first started, we had no idea what we were signing ourselves up for. Like, we didn't realize how much, like, mentoring a group of 11 kids really took. Like, we have students, like, we'll hop on a Zoom call, we'll talk about games, we'll tell them what skills they need to improve on. When in reality, it's like, man, I've had a really rough day at school, and I am feeling really down. Like, why should I keep going? And I think it's like one of those things of like, there's so much more that I got out of football that I even understood. Like, I think back to my own experience about how I would go to practice and I would have a bad day in class, and going to my locker room of 100 guys was my way of escaping and my release. And I realized that we were providing that same thing for these esports kids, and that what we were providing was more than just helping them figure out what college they're going to go to, but it was just like reminding them that they are important and the things that they're doing are important, and that even the colleges that they're looking to go to see them as important. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away from our experience that I didn't even understand in the first time. And I didn't realize, like, I'm not a therapist. Like, I'm just like, I'm a kid who like playing sports, and I really appreciate when kids are able to do what they love, to figure out what's next for them. But sometimes you miss out on the small things of like how much support you actually provide, of like acknowledging that it's more than just playing games. It's waking up every day and committing yourself to the grind, and actually like doing it to a degree that no one else is doing it, because you know what's possible. So like some of the things we would do is we would have our weekly check-ins with our kids, and just see how they're doing with college applications. We started off actually with our first week of building each one of their college lists. There was like 15 schools. You would decide which ones you think you would want to target, which one were your top 5. And then throughout the weeks, we would check in with how your weekly competitions were going. We would have our group sessions just so that kids could kind of talk with one another. Because I'm a football player and because some of my team are esports players, like they don't always want to talk to us. They want to talk to their peers. So like when they got a chance to be in those spaces where the whole cohort is sharing their experiences, it's like, oh wait, I'm not alone in how I'm feeling. Like the things that I'm going through aren't unique to me. And I realized that it's like actually a shared experience, so that you'll find them in our Discord talking about like, man, like we had a tough practice. What are some tips for like warming your hams up before you go to games? So like no longer is it like I'm just this kid who's doing something that no one else understands, but there's actually a whole community out there who is built for me. So we didn't realize what we were doing. We figured it out along the way. And then again, like I said beforehand, I think the biggest thing that was very helpful, I think, for their mindset was even just like the industry workshops of being like, there's careers in this that go beyond just your college aspirations. So like gaming will be your way into college, but it can also be your career afterwards. And when they realized that there was that end point of something that could be sustainable for them as a career, then they felt way more comfortable into showing up for every single meeting and committing themselves to improving. So I think that was one of the biggest things and takeaways that I didn't understand when first going into it, but we were really trying to build them a path forward through doing what they love. So it was kind of a really rewarding experience, and there was a lot more things that I did not understand prior to doing.
No, that's the beauty and joy of teaching, right? You start to learn all the things that you couldn't see. I mean, you hit on some big stuff, right? That sense of community and support. Like that's what I loved about the teams that I was on. And I didn't connect the dots on this till much later in life of how much of that community support I had, and just the people around me who were just part of that shared mission and values. And I remember I went back, and for a year I worked for my first college coach, and that's when it hit me, like, he was a really good teacher. Like you don't know it when you're in it. And then as soon as I got to be in it and see how much he put in just to the psychology, understanding how people are feeling on that day, thinking about in terms of maybe the classes they had or stuff they're struggling with at home, or any of that thing that could impact what they're doing on the basketball court, and creating a space where we could all feel comfortable talking to each other, working out together. And again, having that shared goal, you start to see like, oh my God, like there's a lot more going on here. And I think building and developing that, you have to be incredibly intentional and sort of open and understanding. And in gaming in particular, it's not like everyone competes in gaming at that same level, right? So trying to find those folks who can just sort of relate on the same level can definitely be a challenge. And then once you find that, it's amazing how much easier stuff becomes and how much more you want to work. Like, oh, they're practicing that. Oh, I want to practice that too. Like, oh, you're spending time on this. Oh, here's how you do that. I want to do that too. It starts to normalize the behavior and conversation.
Yeah, 100%. I think even just like there were certain factors that I thought were super exciting to hear from them. They're like, we wanted to improve in their games, but they also were like, in order to improve in games, you need to improve in your diet. So like we took it times like you're an athlete at this point. Like, you're no longer just a gamer who's doing it for like casually. Like you are someone who's trying to improve, and you're wondering how can you get your reaction time better. Maybe we need to start looking at the food pyramid and deciding which meals you should be eating, so that you are maximizing every aspect that you can do in order to accomplish what you want. So like that was super cool for these kids to be like, Sekou, like you're a D1 football player. Like, what do you eat in a day? I'm like, this is what you should be starting with, and here are a few workouts that you can do as well, so that you can just improve yourself as a complete and well-rounded individual. And I thought that was super awesome too.
Oh, those are some great skills. As you look to grow, how are you looking to evolve this program, and whether in terms of it's supporting more young people, developing more programming? Where do you kind of see the next steps for your organization?
Yeah, I think we are in the process of making a few big changes on our platform. I think the biggest one being that we are going to make everything free for high school kids. Like, we don't want you to be able to buy anything. So we're about to remove anything you can pay for because in reality, I think that this space isn't ready for, I think, people to understand the opportunity that exists. Like, if you put a $5 fee for someone to enter a recruiting portal, they're not going to understand that they can get $400,000 in college scholarships at the end of the day. So for right now, well, I think the space is still growing and people are still trying to figure out what's happening. that we just want to open the floodgates, and we want people to know that these opportunities exist. So how we're growing it is just simply making it free and accessible. And we want everyone to participate. And even if you don't know if this is something you would want to do, try it out. And if you don't like it, or if it's something you don't want to continue, you don't have to. But I do want to say there's $50 million in scholarships we're giving out every single year. And a lot of those are not even being taken advantage of. Like, there's money out there that kids aren't claiming because they don't know it's there. So it's like, give it a shot. You never know what you may be eligible for. And I think that it's for me, like, I played football. I was like, I never knew I was going to go to Princeton from playing football. Like, I that was never my aspiration. Like, I didn't want to go to that school. I wanted to play at Penn State. But I ended up where I was supposed to be. And I made a lot, and it's done a lot for me. And I think that if you just give it the same kind of shot, you have no idea where you might end up.
No, that's a great goal and kind of call to action. Yeah, I mean, certainly inspiration is a big piece of it, right? But helping people to dream big, but also then showing, like, here's what you can actually do with it is such a big piece of it. In terms of the industry itself, the games that we play, what are some things, or what is like one ask you kind of have for them that could potentially make this easier, either for players or for yourselves, or things we're trying to do?
In terms of like the game developer companies?
Yeah, game developers, the competitions, like any of those things, like what's something that you think they could do to kind of impact this ecosystem?
There was a big explosion in esports, in Scholastic esports a couple years ago. Like Riot had a whole league for it and things like that. And I think that a lot of their investment like got pulled from those kind of programs. And I think that in reality, I think this is the future for a lot of kids as a path forward, and it's through your games that you guys have created. And I think that gaming companies should be looking at this as like the opportunity to create lifetime customers and lifetime people who are using your platform and things you create to find paths forward. And it shouldn't be something you should be pulling out of, but something you should be investing in. And I think that if gaming companies could refocus and reimagine what that investment could look like and how they could support these kids through the things that they've made, then it could be helpful for everyone.
Yeah, and if I'm a young person, I want to be a gamer, I want to get into esports, I'm just coming into this world, what's some advice you would give me in terms of getting started and hopefully just moving in the right direction?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the biggest thing would be to look at if your high school has an esports team, or if there's a local esports league within your region. And I think that that's a good place to start. And then some kids don't have those resources, and that's what the difficult portion of things is. And that's why you would use something like Eval, or that's the only platform that we know is that you can enter into an esports recruiting portal without having played on a high school team to figure out what you're eligible for. So like, that's why we built what we built. And that gives you kind of a grounding in what you can do and what you can accomplish. Like, I think that's the biggest step. Is just, for us, what we did was we built a college search engine with all the esports teams so that you can look at which schools have the game you want to play. And you can just message them for free, and you can talk to the coaches and figure out whether or not it would be a good fit. And that's a good place to start. And then there's no kind of like strings attached. And if they don't message you back, or if they do, then who knows? Like that could be your next school.
Yeah, this is all good stuff. Sekou, for folks who want to learn more about your work, find out more about your organization, where can they go?
We have an Instagram called Eval Games. And then we also have our recruiting portal, which is evalgaming.com.
No, this has all been good stuff. Sekou, I want to thank you for your time today. I really appreciate the conversation. Encourage folks to definitely check it out, whether your desire is to get into esports, learn more about esports, or just see how folks on the ground are making this work. Sekou, thanks again, man.
No, thank you so much. It's been super fun talking.
Awesome. And thanks for joining, everyone. Have a wonderful day.